What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, Season 6, Episode 9, The Big Chill. Well, unfortunately, this episode started on a really sad note. We find out that Sheila's mother passed away. So, David had arrived the night before to meet her family, and that's when we first met Sheila's parents and her son. We met her father. He was sitting downstairs outside. Then she went upstairs to introduce him to her mother, and we saw this woman. We saw her mom. Her mom was a little bit hard of hearing, so Sheila had to literally like shout into her ear. And the mom seemed to both of her parents seemed like really sweet people. And then we find out that that night everybody went to sleep, and early the next morning, I guess her mom had woken up before anybody else. It must have been around 5 o'clock in the morning or so, and her room was upstairs. And so as she was making her way down the stairs, something happened to the staircase and the thing collapsed. I think the staircase completely collapsed, and she ended up falling. And because it was so early in the morning and the rest of the house was still asleep, nobody heard her. So unfortunately, it was a really bad fall, and she ended up passing away. And I think Sheila even said that she had, discovered her mom then, when she finally woke up the next morning, and it was just really sad. So her poor mother passed away, and we witnessed, the whole process of the funeral, and when they put the casket away, because they didn't bury her in the ground. They put them like in I don't know if it was like a mausoleum where they put the coffins. The whole situation was just so sad. It was so heartbreaking to see Sheila grieving her mother, because this was like real stuff. You're seeing someone grieving the passing of their mother. And, this is a show that we tend to take really lightly. We don't take this show too seriously. And of course, we have heard about cast members passing away or the relatives of cast members passing away, but to actually see it unfold as you're watching the show, that was, that just kind of gave it like a completely different aspect. So the good thing is that David was there for her. He was extremely supportive. I don't know what they call the different processes when it comes to when a loved one passes away, because I guess what I would call the wake, when they have the casket with the person inside the casket before the funeral, and people can come and give their last respects to the person that passed away. And so David was there for her during the wake. He was there for her at the funeral, and he was a really good support system for Sheila. And then when she needed to be alone, he gave her time to be alone. He went back to his hotel to allow her to grieve by herself or with her family. And then at some point, she did want to spend time with him. And it was after the funeral, I guess, she did want to spend a little bit of time with him. And she had to explain in her confessional, she explains to us that right now, she really can't, give any attention to David while she's still mourning her mother. And of course, all of that was really understandable. And David seemed like he was very, very understanding. He was more than understanding with what she was going through. And so it was just really, really heartbreaking. So rest in peace to Sheila's mom. And I don't know. It was just really sad to actually see a cast member, and especially a cast member that, was sort of like endearing, because Sheila and David, they seem like a genuine couple. It seems like the love between them is real. And Sheila is just the sweetest. She's so, so, so sweet. And to see her having to go through this, losing her mom, it was really difficult to watch. It was a very, very sad segment. So moving on from there, we are going to talk about, I wish I had my stuff in order, and I never do. So moving on to Cleo and Christian. So Cleo and Christian. Every time I see Cleo and Christian, I'm thinking of that term, failure to launch. Like, there's just something about this couple that's just not clicking. Online, it seemed like they were getting along really great, good enough for Christian to want to fly across the world to see Cleo. But now that they have actually met, and they're spending time together, it seems like something is missing in this relationship. And my assumption is that I feel like now that Christian has met Cleo, that he probably is not that attracted to her, that he's not feeling her the way he did online. I don't know what changed. I don't know what transpired. You would think that having the real person with you is a lot better than having to interact online. But with Christian, it seemed like it was the opposite. So when we see Cleo and Christian, they're at the market. He buys her a bracelet that she really wanted, and which was really sweet of him to do that. Christian then reflects on the night before, realizes that, he should have been a little bit more aware of Cleo's struggles whenever they're out in public places. I mean, he took her to, well, I don't know whose idea it was to go to this particular bar that they were at the night before, but she was doing fine when they were sitting outside and it was just one-on-one. And then he kind of made her go back inside the bar where it was really crowded and it was really loud and noisy. And Christian didn't take any of that into consideration on how all of that was affecting Cleo. But then again, on the other side, Cleo really didn't voice her concerns right then and there, that this was a little bit overwhelming for her. So then he started talking to those other girls at the table next to them, and it just didn't get any better. So Christian, looking back at the whole night, realizes, okay, yeah, I've made a couple of mistakes. And so at some point they talk about it. I think when they sat down to eat, they had a conversation about it, and Cleo said that she felt excluded when he had given his attention to the group of girls, and Christian tries to say, well, it wasn't like I was trying to exclude you. He was trying to make it look like I was just trying to be friendly, but no, it was extremely rude. The way that he all of a sudden was like, hey, what are y'all doing over there? Like, why do you care? You're here with a woman that you have traveled so far to come see. Why are you concerned about what other people at this pub are doing? Your focus should be 100% just on Cleo. So it wasn't him just being friendly. It was him being extremely rude. So, then he realizes, okay, I need to take into consideration, how certain things affect her autism, how sounds or whatever, how certain things, can affect her autism, how certain things can trigger her. He has to take that into effect. It's not just her trying to accommodate him. He also has to try to accommodate her. So then to make it up to her, he suggests that this particular night that they stay in and have some wine and candles, and I guess try to have a romantic night. So it starts off well enough, right? I'm thinking, okay, they're on the right track, right? Then all of a sudden he breaks out with a virtual reality headset, which was fine because she did have a good time with that. But I'm pretty sure that given the option of talking and getting to know each other better, or playing some video game or virtual reality game, which do you think Cleo would prefer? I don't know Cleo as well as Christian knows her, but I know for sure she probably would have wanted to just sit down on the couch, have some wine, and have a conversation instead of this virtual reality thing. But she did enjoy it. She was a good sport about it. And then after that, it was time to go to bed. So they go to bed, and it's another awkward night where they don't know what to do with each other. And Cleo, she goes and she changes into her little silk nightgown, and Christian, he's laying in bed. You can tell that he is uncomfortable and that he's feeling awkward. So they both say, I think, okay, so Christian starts off by saying that, he's the kind of guy that, no, actually it was Cleo that started talking. Cleo began talking, and she starts off by saying that, obviously, there's an attraction between us, right? Like, we both can't deny that. I think I'm reading you right when I say that we're both attracted to one another. And Christian's like, oh, for sure, yes, for sure. Yeah, we're definitely attracted to each other. But then he says that he's the kind of guy that waits for the girl to make the move on him, to make the first move. And I'm looking at Christian like, are you kidding me? That is so unbelievable. Like, who do you think you're fooling? And then Cleo says in her confessional that she kind of found that hard to believe because online he was the one that was more, I guess, aggressive. He was the one that was more like, he was pursuing her more, and he was very outspoken and very like making it known what he wanted and how he wanted it, etc., etc. So she's like, now he's trying to tell me that he's the more demure kind and that he waits for the woman to make the first move. And his reasoning is that he doesn't want to be rejected, because if he tries to put the moves on a woman and she does reject him, it's going to absolutely crush him. So he waits for the woman to make the first move, which maybe some men do because they want to be respectful, they don't want to offend anybody, or they're not really sure, they can't really read the signs, so they'd rather make the first move. But Cleo has said that when we were communicating online, it wasn't like that at all. He was the one that was more, I guess, sexually aggressive. So she's like, well, if you don't make the first move, well, let me tell you something. I don't make the first move either. I'm a lady, and yeah, I don't go out chasing men and putting moves on men. And so he says that that they have to just kind of wait and see what's going to happen. So let's play the wait and see game. And so I'm just like, okay, Christian, you're just not attracted to her. And I know that he's trying to find an attraction because, you know, like he kissed her goodnight and he doesn't mind cuddling with her. But I don't think that, I think that if it was just that, like a little bit of petting, he'd be okay with it. But doing the, you know, the real deal Holyfield, going all the way with her, he's extremely hesitant about that. And it's because she is a trans woman, point blank, period. He doesn't really know. He's trying to figure it out himself if he is into a trans woman. And I feel like maybe the experience with a trans woman might be different than an experience with a biological woman. So he doesn't really know how to navigate this, which is fine. And I wish that he would tell her that. I wish that he would say, look, I've never been with a trans woman. I don't know if I'm going to know what I'm doing. So you might need to take the lead on this. You know, why can't he just express that and say that? Unless he just point blank is not interested, which is the kind of vibes he's giving me now. Because at least if he would tell her, okay, I've never done this before, help me out, then I can say, okay, he is interested in her, he does want to explore with her, he just doesn't know exactly how to navigate it, he doesn't know maybe the questions to ask or whatever. But he doesn't do that, so it's giving me an impression that he's not interested. Moving on to Riley and Violet. So Riley says that he thought that they were going to have a nice date. You know, the last time that we saw them, they went out to dinner. They both were dressed really nice. And it just went left from the start because he had FaceTimed his friend. I think her name was Tiffany. He FaceTimes his friend Tiffany and has Tiffany interrogate Violet about the dating app and why hasn't she deleted it. So that completely ruined the whole night. So the next morning, Riley says, well, I thought we were going to be having a nice date together. It was supposed to be a nice night for us. But then why did you ruin it then by bringing your friend Tiffany into the mix? If that's what you thought and that's what you were hoping for. So why did you ruin it? So completely ambushed her with that phone call. So Riley says he's blocked Violet. And I'm thinking, this is so immature. Y'all are the most immature people I've ever seen. Y'all do this blocking of, y'all are dating and y'all are blocking each other. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like, you know, it's some troll. This is your partner and you're blocking them. Y'all, I cannot wrap my mind around that. So Violet is out shopping with her daughter and she tells her daughter about what happened the night before. And she says that she didn't feel protected by Riley. She said that, you know, Riley allowing his friend to interrogate her and ask her these questions in a really aggressive tone. She felt like, you know, that Riley should have put a stop to it. Her daughter said something like, well, maybe Riley didn't know that Tiffany was going to react like that. And then Violet responds by saying, well, if he didn't know that she was going to react like that, then once she did, he should have stopped it because he's my boyfriend and he should have my best interest at heart. So she said that she had sent him a very long text and she blocked him. And she says that him not protecting her triggered her because her ex-husband was like that. Her ex-husband didn't protect her either. And she talks about how when she had given birth to her second daughter, her ex-mother-in-law was upset that she had another girl because her ex-mother-in-law really wanted some grandsons. And I guess, you know, the ex-mother-in-law made her feel some kind of way about giving birth to all these girls. And she was like, my husband didn't do anything to defend me or protect me. He just let his mother talk any kind of way to me. And we all know, the ex-mother-in-law obviously missed a couple of the classes in biology, because it's got nothing to do with the woman when it comes to the sex of the child. But, what can you say? So she was like, it really triggered her, this feeling of being with a man that's not there to protect you, that doesn't care that you're feeling hurt by this other person. So she sent him a long text expressing her feelings, and basically saying that he wasn't a man. She didn't see him as a real man. What else did she say in that text? Whatever. She said a whole bunch of stuff. We'll get to that later. And so she blocked him. And the daughter is like, y'all are just acting so immature. Like, I'm not understanding why y'all can't communicate. So Riley tells us that he is not going to reach out to her because he's so mad at her that he's not going to make the first move to apologize or to try to make things right. He's going to wait for her to make the first move. And Violet tells her daughter, well, I'm not going to reach out to him. He needs to reach out to me. Like I said, y'all are deep in your 40s and y'all are acting like this whole thing. I'm not going to talk to her first. She needs to talk to me first. And I'm blocking her and I'm blocking him. This is so immature. And you know what? This is how, I'm telling you, sometimes you look at people and you're like, this is the reason why you're single. This is the reason why Riley is single, because he's so immature. He's so completely immature. What really aggravated me the most was at the dinner when the friend was asking Violet about the damn app, and Violet was not she was looking at Riley like, aren't you going to say anything? And then Riley looked at her like, she's talking to you. This ain't got nothing to do with me. That really upset me when he said, this ain't got nothing to, you're the one that started it. You're the one that contacted the friend and said, hey, I'm going to FaceTime you and I want you to ask her ABCD. And then he's got the audacity to be like, this ain't got nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with him. He ruined that night. Okay, moving on. So Riley was considering possibly going back home to the United States. But oh yeah, this is what the text message said. The text says that he didn't protect her, that the friend had no right to ask her these questions about, the app, and that she doesn't think that he's man enough for her, or that he's not a real man. So later on, Riley is considering going back home to the United States, but he decides, you know what, I'm going to make the best of my trip here all alone, with or without Violet. So he decides to take a tour ride, and the tour was on the back of the tour guide's motorcycle. It wasn't on a tour bus. It wasn't in a car. It wasn't on a horse carriage. It was on the back of this guy's motorcycle. So they're going down the highway and he's, snapping pictures here and there, and he's on the back of this guy's motorcycle. And it was the funniest thing to see this big guy hanging on for dear life on the back of this little motorcycle. Lord have mercy. It's like, did you do this because it was cheaper, right? Like, why didn't you have like a tour bus or a cab ride or something like that where you would have been comfortable? So after the tour ride is over, he asks the tour guide, does he have anything else? Does he have any plans for the night? He asked the tour guide, do you have any plans later on? And I guess the tour guide, he was off duty. I guess Riley was his last one. And so Riley's like, well, why don't you come to dinner with me? He asked this guy out for a date. He's like, why don't you come to dinner with me? And so the guy was like, okay, a free meal? Hell yeah. So they go to a restaurant, and Riley completely unloads all of his relationship problems to this tour guide. And the tour guide says, well, your friend really didn't have the right to ask her those questions about the app because, in our culture, only family can ask your partner questions. And even though your friend is like a sister to you, she wasn't your real sister. And so Riley was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So it was because, the questions were coming from somebody who wasn't my family. So it would have been okay if it was my dad or something like that. And the tour guide was like, yeah, I guess. And so the tour guide tells him, you need to reach out to her. You have to unblock her, and you're going to have to apologize. And I have a very strong feeling that Riley was just waiting for someone to tell him that, because he was going to do that all along, because he can't live without Violet. He wants his Violet back. So he was just waiting for someone to give him the red light, telling him that it's okay to contact Violet and to beg for her forgiveness. Whatever. Y'all do you. This is a very immature couple. This is how it's going to be with them. If they decide to stay together, this is how it's always going to be. The fighting, the blocking, the making up. The fighting, the blocking, and the making up. It's always going to be like that. And then involving other people into your relationship. The way that Violet involved his dad into their fights, talking to the dad behind Riley's back, complaining to the dad about Riley, the way Riley gets his friends involved in his relationship with her. And now he's got the tour guide involved in his relationship with her. This is what they do. They pull people in as additional support for someone else to be on their side. And they get everybody else riled up, and then they kiss and make up with one another. And the supporting cast, they're still mad at the other person. It's just ridiculous. Handle your own problems. Don't involve the father. Don't involve the friends. And for sure, don't involve some strange tour guide into the crazy, psychotic dynamics of your relationship. Moving on to Statler and Dempsey. So they wake up the next morning, at Dempsey's little house, and Statler did not have a good night. She was cold, she was freezing her butt off because Dempsey's house does not have central heating. Now this is giving Statler second thoughts about moving in with Dempsey because she doesn't like the cold. She hates the cold, and there's no central heating, and there's also no indoor plumbing for the toilet, so I don't know what she's gonna do. So she tells Dempsey that, I really didn't have a good night. I felt really uncomfortable. For whatever reason, Dempsey takes this to heart. And she's like, well, I don't know if, she's really having, if I'm the one that's making her uncomfortable. No, girl, it's your negative 40-degree house. That's what's making her uncomfortable. It's got nothing to do with you. So Dempsey begins to sage the house, and then she sages the hell out of Statler because Statler has been she's been around the block a few times. She's a very well-traveled person when it comes to sexual experiences, and so Dempsey was saging the hell out of Statler, and so Statler was like, "Don't shame me. There's nothing wrong with being a slut." So moving on from there. We get to know a little bit more about Dempsey and her history. I guess she came from a traveling carnival family. She's one of 3 girls. Her older sister passed away from carbon monoxide. When her older sister died, she really didn't know what to do with herself. She ended up leaving home, trying to find herself, didn't know what she wanted out of life, etc., until she met Ben. So Ben owns this. I don't know what this is. I think it's like when people come and travel, when people take vacations out there in the country. He has like this, it's like a lounge, I guess you could say, where the guests can come and play games, hang out. There's a bar there. They can have food there. So Ben had offered her a job to be a cook in his lounge, I guess you could say. And so that's when Dempsey, I guess, found her purpose in life again. So she loves living in her little house, and she loves working for Ben at this lounge, and this is her life. So she really wanted Statler to meet Ben and to also see the lounge, which is called the Kip and Nook. So she takes Dempsey there, she takes Statler there, shows her around, and then introduces her to Ben. When she introduced Statler to Ben, I kind of felt like it kind of seemed like they really didn't care for each other, Statler and Ben. It almost seemed like they were sizing each other up, that they could possibly, both be interested in Statler. We know that, both be interested in Dempsey. We know that Statler obviously is interested in Dempsey, but I'm beginning to wonder, was Ben interested in Dempsey as well? Was he kind of sizing up Statler, trying to figure out if this was competition for him, for Dempsey? Like, I was really confused because they really didn't, hit it off that well. It wasn't anything obvious or overt between them, but there was definitely something there, some type of tension between them. And then Ben started talking about Thailand, and he was asking, well, how did you feel about her going to Thailand? And Statler was like, I was fine with it, whatever. And then Ben said, well, Thailand is like the party capital of the world. And of course, it seemed like he said that as if to kind of get Statler jealous or concerned about Dempsey, because she was already, a bit nervous about, about Dempsey going to Thailand because towards the end of her trip, Statler couldn't communicate with her at all. She lost all communication with her. And this got Statler very like worried and insecure and wondering, is she talking to somebody else? Is she meeting other people? Did she forget about me? And so here you have Ben say, well, you know, Thailand is the party capital of the world. So then later on, they're back at Dempsey's little house and they're preparing dinner. And this is when Statler tells Dempsey, you know, when you were in Thailand towards the end of your trip, we lost all communication. I couldn't get in touch with you. You weren't responding to my calls or my texts. And I was getting worried. I thought you were cheating on me. And Dempsey reassured her I was not cheating on you. I told you that I didn't have any Wi-Fi. I even warned you that, hey, when my dad leaves, I'm going to lose communication. And I'm not going to be able to talk on the phone or communicate through phone or whatever. So she's like, I would never cheat on you. It didn't even cross my mind. That doesn't even cross my mind. And then Stouter was like, well, you know, I have a confession, you know, I have cheated on a partner. And so Dempsey was like, you know, well, that's good to know, I guess. I don't know how she took that. But then Statler began to feel bad that she had, you know, accused her of cheating when she wasn't cheating. And she realizes that, well, maybe she's not as healed as she thought she was, because she still, you know, has all of these unresolved issues about being adopted and abandoned by her biological parents, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these issues that she thought that she had resolved or was working on resolving are nowhere near resolved, because they're creeping back up into her relationship with Dempsey. So yeah, good luck to all of that. If I was Statler, I don't know, I would think twice about, if I was Dempsey, I would definitely think twice about dating Statler, because she has a lot of unresolved issues. She has a lot of things that she needs to take care of. And I don't know if I don't think she's emotionally ready to be in a serious, mature, committed relationship. And I think that's the reason why she is so focused on the intimacy part of the relationship, because everything else about a relationship probably scares the hell out of her. And I don't think she is emotionally capable right now to deal with a full-blown, mature relationship. She needs to go back to therapy. She needs to handle her issues of insecurity, her fear of abandonment, before she can dive into anything with anybody. Moving on to Gino and Jasmine. Y'all, these are some clowns. Gino and Jasmine, to me, are just so clownish. It's such a waste of my time to even talk about these people. But anyways, so they're trying to make good memories, right? They're trying to create good memories because that's what their therapist said. Try to create good memories and stop bickering with each other all day. So they're out the jewelers. And Jasmine is trying to find a necklace for her sister because it's her sister's birthday. So after she finds the necklace that she wants to look at rings, because she did not like the ring that Gino had proposed to her with. And if I can remember correctly, I don't think I liked it either. I think the ring was like, I don't really remember, but I think it was like just too gaudy. It looked really cheap. And I think it came in like a clear plastic box instead of like a velvet box when he got on Wendy and proposed to her. I think it was in a plastic. It looked cheap from what I can remember, but I don't know. So she never liked that ring. She conveniently lost it, and now she wants another ring. And so she asks the jeweler if she can look at rings, and Gino is like, honey, we're not looking at rings today. And she's like, oh, but I lost my other ring. And Gino's like, I'm not going to buy you a ring today. I'm not going to buy you another ring until the visa is approved. So now they start arguing about the damn visa. So she says to him, well, why don't you just get an attorney to expedite the process, because I've been waiting a long time for this visa and you keep on telling me it's going to be approved any day, and I'm still waiting. So get an attorney and expedite it. And Gino was like, I don't need to have an attorney. And he says in his confessional that with his last wife, he did the immigration process all by himself without an attorney, and it worked. She got her citizenship, or they got the K1 visa. So he's like, I don't need an attorney. I can do this on my own. So she gets upset. She's like, you just don't want to be with me, or you're just trying to, it's like a stall tactic that you're using, because we could have already had the damn visa by now if you just would have hired an attorney, but you're too cheap and you don't want to be with me, and da da da. So they're arguing in front of this jeweler in this public place, and Gino gets upset and he walks away. So later on, they have to still celebrate the sister's birthday. So they go out bike riding. So they're out bike riding and they're actually having a good time. They're laughing, they're having a good time. The sister's happy. And then all of a sudden, Jasmine just has to she tried to bring down the mood. So she says, I'm surprised, that you have the stamina to ride this bike because you don't have the stamina for me in bed. And he was like, what? And she's like, yeah, you're an old man. You don't have enough stamina, for me in bed. You have no stamina for me. And then she goes even further and says, the whole time that every single time that me and you have been together, you've never given me the big O. Never. I've never had the big O with you. And Gina was like, you're lying. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm not lying. I faked it every single time. I faked it. And I thought it's gonna turn into a Seinfeld scene because there was a scene on Seinfeld between Elaine and Jerry. And because, Elaine and Jerry used to date. And so one night, Elaine tells Jerry that every time that we were intimate, I faked it. And Jerry was like, no, you didn't. And she's like, yes, I did. And Jerry says, but what about the noises and the things that you were saying and the big production that you would put on? And she was like, fake, 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 fake. And so I thought that it was going to turn like that. I thought, Gina was going to say, but what about all the sounds that you would make and the things that you would do and all of that big production? And I thought Jasmine was going to be like, fake, fake, fake. But anyways, so she was like, yeah, I faked it. And I'm like, what's the big deal about faking it 7 times? Okay, you've only been together 7 times. Why is that so hard to believe that she could have faked it? It's only been 7 times. It's not like they've been together hundreds of times and she faked it each time. That would be a little bit unbelievable, but 7 times? Yeah, she probably did fake it 7 times, but Gino didn't want to believe it. And then at the end of it all, Jasmine's like, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Gino. Whatever, Jasmine. If you want to stay in an unsatisfactory relationship, that's your business. So then they go for ice cream. They go for ice cream, and this is when he presents her with yet another ring. And this is not an engagement ring. He tells her very clearly this is a promise ring. And this is just as ugly as her engagement ring. He says that when he had walked out of the jewelers, he bought this ring at some vendor outside. Why? Why are you, as a grown man, buying a promise ring for your fiance? You've already proposed. She already accepted. Y'all are engaged. You're about to get married. Why are you buying her some cheap trinket on the side of the street as a promise ring? Like, why are you doing that? I don't understand. Like, he doesn't get Jasmine at all. But anywho, so it looked cheap. It looked ugly. And she put it on, and he goes, "Do you like it?" And she's like, "Yes." And then in the confessional, I don't know, she goes, I do. I love it, Gino, because it's 2 hearts. 1 heart's for you and 1 heart's for me. I was like, oh, it's 2 hearts. It's like it was definitely like some type of a blue colored glass and a clear colored glass, I guess. And they were shaped like hearts. I'm like, oh my God, that is so tacky. She's going to wear this? Okay. Gino, if you wanted to buy her something, and you don't have the money to buy something really extravagant, why don't you just buy her something simple but yet real? Simple but real. Like, you could have bought her like a sterling silver bracelet with a little heart on it or 2 hearts on it. Why couldn't you get something with some taste? Why do you keep buying her this cheap, gaudy stuff? But anyway, maybe that's how he sees her. Maybe that's how she presents herself and that's how he sees her. I don't know. But one other thing about Jasmine, sweetheart, my love, when we first met you, Jasmine, I thought that you were like very naturally pretty. Of course, you have the extensions in your hair and you have some type of, maybe, I don't know, some type of work done. But in the beginning, Jasmine was like a natural prettiness about her. Now she got herself I don't know. Now she is like morphing into a Bratz doll. The lips in the confessional, I mean, it's like she's got 2 pillows stacked on top of each other. The contouring of her face, it's just off. It's so off. And she was like literally really pretty in the beginning, when we first saw her, she was really pretty. And now she's morphing into a Bratz doll. She's morphing into these cookie cutter type of women with the too much Botox, too much injections in the cheek, too much injections in the lips. Y'all, Jasmine, you were so pretty in the beginning. Why do you want to look like this? Why do you want to walk around with two queen size pillows as lips? Why do you want to look like this? When she kissed Gino after he had given her the ring, was that when? Yeah, I think that's when they had kissed. I mean, she damn near took, like, her lips covered his entire face. Anyways, not my business. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it on your way out. Please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.